Here's another one on the Spook. I almost lost my rod because I have butterfingers. Welcome to another episode of Bass with Captain Lou. Today is going to be all about spooks. You guys have been reaching out and asking me a couple of questions in regards to spooks and the hooks I've been using. So this video is going to be all about that. Stick around. Welcome back to the channel, gang. I'm out doing some fishing again. It is a very hot morning. I am drenched in sweat. Our heat indexes have been over the 105 mark over the last few days. Today's is about to get to 107, which is very hot. But let's fish some top water. How's that? So you guys know it's hot. Let's fish top water. So you guys know that I love fishing the Spook. In this case, I am fishing the Spook boyo, and I've been getting a lot of feedback, or questions rather, in regards to the spook fishing that I do. You guys have noticed the type of spooks I throw, and then one of the main questions that I've been getting a lot is, how am I liking the inline hooks? If you guys have been following me for any amount of time, last year I put a video out why I switched to inline hooks. I strongly urge you guys to watch that video. But nonetheless, I do enjoy fishing the Spook. So stick around. In this video, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you guys about why I like fishing the Spook, why I fish different sizes of Spook. I'm going to be talking about the gear that I use and stuff like that. So it's going to be a pretty informative video. Let's keep fishing and let's keep talking. So the Spook has been around for a very, very long time. It's been around since I've been a kid and way before that. And basically the Spook, simply what it is, it's just a simply cigar-shaped type of lure. Okay, and this is the lure that's famous for the walking the dog action. Okay, and what I mean by walking the dog. Walking the dog is when you see lures that go like this in the water. It does like this little S pattern in the water. Well, that's walking the dog, and this is one of the first baits that put that type of technique on the map. So when it comes to spooks, the Spooks comes in different sizes. One of the most famous spooks, and this is the first one I was introduced to, is the Sarah Puppy. I mean, this is a very, very small spook. Okay, this is like your finesse spook. This catches a bunch of bass, but this is the size of that spook. The next spook, and this is no stranger to the channel, and you guys know that I fish with this a lot. It is the Spook boyo. Okay, it's a little bit bigger than the Sarah spook. And then you start coming up in the bigger spooks. This one right here is another spook. This is more of your medium to larger size spook right here. And then last but not least is the original, the big guy. Okay, this is the big boy right here. This is the big spook. So as you guys can see, I fish with different sizes. So the size of spook that you choose is depending a lot on that bite. If you're looking for a quality bite, meaning you're looking for that big bite, then these bigger spooks are the ones that are gonna get that happen, that are gonna make that happen. Now understand that just because you're using a big spook or a small spook, when the big bass decides to bite, a big bass will even hit this tiny spook. That's a good one. I'm gonna have to use the net on this one. He freaking crushed that boy. Gotta take your time when you fight these fish. My drag is pretty set pretty well. Taking my time. You don't wanna, oh, it's a nice fish. You don't wanna rush it. You don't wanna rush it. There we go. It's a nicer bass. So I also want to share before I continue is the spooks that I'm showing you guys are modified to my specifications. These spooks do not come with inline hooks. That's a modification that I do. When I'm talking about a spook, I'm talking about the traditional type of spook, which is this one right here, which comes in a treble format. Okay, I personally remove the treble hooks of my spooks and I fish with the inline hook. And if you watch my why I switched to inlines, I go into more depth in regards to that. But to be upfront in regards to that, because this is not about a hook video. The two reasons that I use inline hooks, because a lot of you guys have been asking me, is number one, the main one for me is safety. I rather be dealing with 2 hooks versus 6 hooks, especially when you come across the species of fish that we have here, like the peacock and the Oscar, which are very, very, they're mean fish, they're very aggressive fish, and they don't stop once you catch them. It increases your chances of getting hooked in a finger or somewhere else around your body because of the treble hook. The inline hook minimizes that dramatically, and that's the main reason why I fish with inline hooks. And the last reason why I fish with inline hooks is because I'm able to get into cover a little better. I'm able to move inside of cover a little better or I could fish tighter to cover rather with inline hooks. It doesn't grab on as bad with treble hooks. With inlines, it minimizes that a little bit, and that's another reason why I fish inline hooks. Okay, so now I'm gonna start talking to you guys about the rods and reels that I use. In this case, when I throw smaller spooks, in this case the boyo size of spook, I use the Dobbins Caden 713. And what is that? It's a 7'1" rod with a 3-powered. Okay, a 3-powered rod is more of your medium type of rod. It's not heavy, but it's not light. It's a very great rod for this type of application for me. And the type of reel that I'm using is I'm using a Shimano. Okay, this is an 8-speed. It's a Shimano SLX MGL, which is a 70 size type of reel. It's a smaller reel. The type of line that I'm using is 20-pound 9-strand braid. It's a very thin braid in the 20-pound category, and I love fishing the spook with a 15-pound, anywhere between 12 to a 15-pound leader when it comes to this size of spook. Now, when it comes to fishing bigger spooks, like your medium-sized spook to your bigger type of spook, I do a rod change. So what I'm using here is I use a 7'3", either a 4-powered, or if I'm using this big guy right here, I will go up to a 5-power rod. Why is that? The reason for it is because I'm chasing big bass or big peacock with these outfits. So I need a heftier rod. So for this medium size of, or this larger size of spook, I use the 7'3", 4-powered, which is more along the lines of a medium heavy. In this case, it is a Dobbins Sierra rod. Okay, I do bump up my braid. In this particular case, this is around 40-pound braid, and I'm using, again, 15-pound. I use anywhere between 15 to 20-pound monofilament leader, depending on the cover that I use. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you guys what I do. Obviously, I take a cast. In my case, I love taking very long bombing casts, and I'm going to be using B-roll for this. I take very long casts. Once that bait touches the water, I give it a second. I give those rings a chance to dissipate, and then I begin working the lure. Now, how do you work the lure? Now, what you got to be careful with is you got to make sure that you get your rod tip down. Keep your rod tip down, and the name of the game when it comes to spook fishing is slack. You don't want a whole bunch of slack, but you don't want a little bit of slack. You want just enough slack that's going to allow this bait to have a free nose. And what do I mean by that? Meaning you do not want tension on that bait when it's in the water. You don't want this type of tension. You want a little bit of slack line on that nose. Okay, and the reason for that is because when you go ahead and initiate your pull, when you do your gentle twitch or tap, when you do that, this lure will have a tendency to move. The nose will move, okay? In regards to the tap, it will move to one side, and when you tap again, it'll move to the next, okay? So what you're gonna find that I do is I cast, I let the ring settle, I have just enough slack, and then I just do a series of taps. So it's a rhythm, so you tap. Every time you tap, okay, it's a twitch. Every time you twitch, that lure is gonna move, okay? If you have the right amount of slack. The reason you'll know, or the number one way you'll know if you have the right amount of slack right away, is if you don't get this movement, you don't have enough slack. If you find that it's moving forward or it's chugging, that means you gotta back off and give it a little bit more slack, okay? But once you got that right amount of slack, you're gonna find that the lure is gonna go to the side, and then when you tap again, it's gonna go to the side. So walking the dog is basically a series of taps. So you go tap, 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 and the bait will start doing this type of motion. Now, the faster you tap, the faster that nose will go side to side. The slower you tap, the slower that bait will move across the water. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a cast, and I'm gonna go ahead and using B-roll and show you guys the different cadences when it comes to working the spook. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate the fast walk. Okay, again, utilizing B-roll. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna take a shorter cast. I'm not gonna take a bombing cast just to show you guys, but I want you guys to keep an eye on two things. Look at the amount of slack. I'm gonna try to illustrate that as best that I can, the amount of slack that I'm using, but look at the taps, okay? They're not hard taps, they're just very quick succession taps. It's all in the wrist and in the rod placement. You don't want your rod high, and you want it down below. so that you're able to control the rod a lot better. So let's take a look. Better bass. So that last fish is going to bring me to my last point in regards to fishing with the Spook, and that is hook sets. When it comes to a hook set, the number one type of hook set that you should be doing with these style of baits, even if it's inline hook or it's with treble hooks, it's the sweep set. And that's basically when you sweep. I turn my hips away from the strike, okay, and then I rake. I go ahead and rake those hooks across the mouth of the bass. Now, what you gotta do is you gotta keep focus on that bait. You gotta watch that bait and watch the characteristics of that bait, because sometimes, as you guys could see, the bass will smash it, or sometimes they'll just come up and gently lip it. But when you see that bait disappear, when you see that lure disappear, that Spook disappear, you go ahead and rake those hooks, okay? What you do is you rake those hooks and then you keep constant reel pressure. Do not start fighting the fish and yanking and getting all excited. That's when you lose the fish. You sweep, okay, and you start maintaining constant reel pressure. Depending on the size of the fish and the type of rod you're using, you can either boat flip it or use a net like you guys have seen me use. But you do those two things, you sweep and constant reel pressure, and you're gonna have a good chance of landing that Spook bass. That one just came up and just freaking slammed it right next to the boat. Again, another chunky one, not a giant, but a nice chunky bass. That was freaking fun. So there you guys have it, guys. The Spook, the nuts and bolts of fishing the Spooks out here in the Everglades. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully I was able to cover a lot of stuff for you guys. Like this video, share this video, better yet, subscribe. The community is growing. We are knocking at 1,000 subscribers door, and I really want to hit that achievement, but I need your guys' help to do that. So please subscribe to the video if you found any of the information that I shared with you guys helpful. You guys want to learn about establishing the bite, go ahead and check out this video right here. I talked about how to establish a bite out here in the Everglades on this very system last week, and the fish are still here, so watch that video and I explained to you guys how to establish the bite. In the meantime, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys again soon. Take care of yourselves.